Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, we've got some fascinating stuff to cover today, so let's just dive right in. We're taking a trip way back in time to decode some seriously ancient algebraic mathematics. Specifically, we're looking at Aryabhata's classic rule of three. If you're the kind of person who loves seeing how structured, logical math connects across centuries and how beautifully it can actually be expressed, well, you are absolutely going to love this exploration.
So let me ask you this. How exactly do you calculate the fruit of desire? I know. It sounds like a riddle from some ancient fantasy novel or maybe a deep philosophical puzzle. But what if I told you this isn't abstract poetry at all? It's a hard, concrete mathematical formula. By the time we wrap up today, you're going to know exactly how to calculate this using principles that are literally foundational to the algebra we use every single day. Now, to get to that fruit, we've first got to talk about proportionality. It's pretty straightforward. When two ratios are exactly the same in their simplest forms, we say they're proportional. It's all about fundamental balance and equivalence. And really, understanding this one core concept unlocks a massive chunk of everyday mathematics.
The crucial mathematical indicator we use here is the double colon. That right there is what tells us two ratios are proportional to one another. So when you read A is to B, double colon, C is to D, it's just an elegant way of stating that the ratio of A to B is perfectly proportional to the ratio of C to D.
And the reason we can say for sure that these two separate ratios are proportional? Well, it's actually a completely mechanical one. Their terms are exactly equal when they're cross-multiplied. Think of it like a built-in verification system for the math, letting us prove beyond a doubt that they're in true balance. So this foundational balance forms a process we use all the time today. Let's briskly walk through the modern procedural steps. Step 1, you set your known and unknown ratios so they're proportional. Step 2, cross-multiply those terms. And Step 3, just find that fourth unknown quantity. This is standard cross-multiplication, right? We learned it early on, and we use it for scaling up recipes, currency exchange, you name it. It's clean, it's cold, and it's highly efficient.
But let's step away from that sterile, modern classroom for just a second. Multiply the phala by the icha and divide the resulting product by the pramana. That quote, that is from Aryabhata. He was one of the absolute greatest mathematicians and astronomers of the classical age of Indian mathematics, writing roughly 1,500 years ago. He was instructing his students on how to solve the exact same proportional problem we just looked at, but as you can tell, his language is vastly different.
Okay, let's decode this beautiful Sanskrit. We can actually map these ancient terms directly onto those dry modern math concepts we established just a minute ago. Aryabhata breaks down the components of a proportional equation into 4 distinct vocabulary words: pramana, phala, icha, and ichaphala. First up, we have pramana, which translates into English as the measure or the argument. In pure mathematical definitions, this is simply our known antecedent or our base quantity. You can think of it as the foundational starting point of our ratio. It's the A in our earlier modern equation, the grounding metric that we already possess. Next, we have phala, and this translates beautifully to the fruit or the result. Mathematically speaking, the key takeaway here is that this is our known consequent. It's the direct, logical result produced by our base measure, the pramana. So, if the measure is our starting reality, the fruit is the natural outcome of that reality. In our modern formula, this perfectly represents the B.
Now, this is where the actual problem-solving kicks in. Icha translates to desire or request. In algebra, this represents our new antecedent. It's the new quantity for which you have a desire to find the result. You've got a known ratio, but now you want to know what happens when you introduce a brand new variable. This is the C in our setup. It's essentially human curiosity, the whole catalyst for doing the calculation in the first place.
Which brings us right back full circle to that wild question we asked at the very beginning of this explainer. Ichaphala, the fruit of desire. Like we said, this isn't a mystical quest, it's simply the unknown consequent. It is the final tangible answer you're trying to calculate, the X or the D that you solve for in a modern equation. You had a desire to know a new outcome, and the mathematical formula gives you the fruit of that desire.
When we bring all these concepts together, just look at the complete, unified picture we get. On the left side, we have our known reality, the measure and its fruit. Pramana is to phala. Then on the right side, we have our new mathematical inquiry, our desire and the unknown fruit of that desire. Icha is to ichaphala.
It's pretty amazing to see how perfectly Aryabhata's poetic ancient terms slot directly into our modern proportional formula. It is literally the exact same thing as saying A is to B as C is to D.
And here is the ultimate payoff, the final calculation. Because these ratios are perfectly proportional, we can cross-multiply them. The measure, multiplied by the fruit of desire, equals the fruit multiplied by the desire. Pramana times Ishyapala equals Pala times Isha. It balances flawlessly. By dividing the product of the known fruit and your desire by the initial measure, you unlock the unknown, exactly as Aryabhata instructed a millennium and a half ago.
So I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder. If ancient mathematical giants like Aryabhata saw what we consider cold hard data as poetry, as human desires and organic fruits, how might that change the way we look at numbers today? Because mathematics, it turns out, isn't just about rigid, sterile rules on a whiteboard. It's a deeply human language, one we've been using for thousands of years to make sense of our desires and the world around us. Keep questioning and keep looking for the poetry hidden inside the data. Thanks for joining me on this one.